The stars stretched endlessly, glittering like diamonds scattered across a dark ocean. In the quiet sector of the galaxy known as the Lyran Corridor, a convoy of merchant vessels glided smoothly along their trade route. The Lyran Collective was a peaceful people, known for their love of art, science, and trade. They built graceful ships with shining hulls, curved wings, and glowing engines that hummed softly. They had never wanted war. They believed diplomacy could solve every problem. But that day their beliefs were shaken. Out of the shadows of a nearby nebula, raider ships appeared. They were not elegant. They were not peaceful. They were predators, metal fangs and claws of steel, hungry for cargo and slaves. The raiders unleashed their attack without warning. Blazing energy blasts tore through the first of the convoy ships. Explosions lit the void. Lyran crews screamed into their comms, trying to hold formation, but panic spread faster than commands. Captain Neril of the Lyran escort frigate Silver Light tried to rally his forces. His voice trembled, but he forced strength into it. "Hold the line! Protect the convoy! We must defend the civilians." But he knew the truth. Their escort was too small. The raiders' firepower was overwhelming. One by one, Lyran ships fell. Debris floated into space, glowing with the heat of destruction. Families and traders who had set out for peaceful exchange were now trapped in a nightmare. In desperation, Neril gave the order that no Lyran commander ever wanted to give. "Activate the ancient beacon. Send the distress call on every frequency." The crew hesitated. That beacon was a relic, built long before the Collective's current era of peace. It was designed for emergencies when no allies were nearby. But the cost of using it was dangerous. It would broadcast across the galaxy, reaching unknown listeners. Still, it was their only hope. The beacon pulsed. A wave of energy raced outward faster than light, carrying a single message. "SOS, we are under attack. Please help." The raiders laughed as they saw the beacon glow. "No one will save you," their leader sneered. "The galaxy fears us," but the message had already gone too far. It slipped past the boundaries of known civilizations, past the comfortable trade routes and cultural centers of the galaxy. It traveled into regions marked with warnings on every map. The charts bore red letters. Deathworld 12, do not enter. Do not engage. The Lyrans, in their panic, had forgotten what that meant. On Earth, many light years away, humanity listened. In the hidden depths of the solar defense network, massive arrays scanned the galaxy for signals. Most days the machines picked up only static, the quiet whispers of distant stars. But then came the cry for help. Lieutenant Marcus Hale leaned over his console. His eyes widened as he decoded the signal. "Captain, we've got something. It's alien, definitely not one of ours. An SOS." Captain Elena Ward, commander of the listening post, turned from her station. Her sharp eyes studied the readout. The message was clear, filled with panic and desperation. The coordinates were displayed in glowing red. Her officers murmured nervously. The signal came from far beyond the safe corridors deep in the galactic rim. No human ship had patrolled that far in years. But Ward knew what their duty was. Humanity had sworn to stand against piracy and lawlessness, no matter how far the cry for help came from. "Send word to Fleet Command," Ward ordered. "Tell them humanity has been called." And so the order was given. From its resting dock in the Orc shipyards, a giant awoke. The UNS Valiant, a battleship forged in the harshest days of humanity's struggles, powered up. Its hull was black as midnight, scarred from past wars, yet still strong. Towers of cannons lined its frame. Heavy plating layered its surface. It was not beautiful like the Lyran ships. It was not graceful. But it was terrifying. The Valiant was built by survivors of a death world. On Earth, storms, predators, and disasters had forged humanity's spirit. They were used to fighting for every breath. Their ships reflected this truth: massive, dangerous, unstoppable. Inside the Valiant, thousands of crew members prepared. Engineers lit the reactors, soldiers checked their weapons, and pilots readied their squadrons. In the command center, Captain Ward stood before her officers. She raised her voice so all could hear. "An alien people has asked for help. They are under attack. We do not know them, and they may fear us, but we will not ignore a call for aid. Set a course to their coordinates." Humanity answers the SOS. The crew roared their approval. For them, this was not just duty, it was pride. Humanity was not the monster the galaxy imagined. Humanity was the shield that would rise in the darkest night. The Valiant entered warp, space folded around it. The massive ship vanished into a tunnel of light. racing across the stars toward the desperate cry. Meanwhile, the Lyran convoy was breaking. Neryl's frigate fought bravely, but it was only a matter of time before the raiders tore through the last defense. Civilians screamed in terror as their ship's shields failed. Flames licked across hulls. The raiders closed in, hungry for plunder. Then space shifted. A ripple like thunder rolled through the void. The stars bent. Out of the warp corridor, a shape emerged, a colossal shadow blotting out the stars. The raiders froze. Their scanners screamed warnings. The energy readings were off the charts. The silhouette was unmistakable. It was not a trading vessel. It was not a simple escort. It was a nightmare from legend. The Deathworlders had arrived. The Valiant spread its wings of steel, its engines burning like suns. Weapons came online, each one large enough to crack a mountain. On the bridge of the raiders, their leader's voice shook. It's a human warship. Retreat! The raiders scattered like insects before fire. They had heard stories of Deathworlder ships, of their endless resilience, of their wrath. They had mocked them as myths. But now the myth stood before them. Very real. The Lyrans, stunned into silence, watched the massive vessel deploy drones and prepare its defenses. Captain Neryl whispered, "What have we done? Who have we called?" The answer was simple. They had called humanity, and humanity had come. The void of space, once filled with the cries of the Lyran convoy and the cruel laughter of raiders, now stood silent. The sudden arrival of the massive human warship had turned the battlefield into a place of awe and fear. The raiders scattered first. Their leader barked desperate commands, but even the fiercest among them had no courage to stay. Their scanners told them everything they needed to know. This was not just another patrol ship. It was a battleship built by humans, the most dangerous species to ever rise from a death world. Engines flared as the raiders tried to escape, but the Valiant was not blind. Inside its command center, Captain Elena Ward stood tall. Her eyes scanned the tactical display where fleeing ships appeared as red dots. Calmly, she gave her orders. Deploy interceptor drones. Disable, don't destroy. Let them know running will not save them. Yes, Captain, replied her officers. From the underbelly of the Valiant, hundreds of drones launched. They were sleek machines armed with precision cannons. Like hawks hunting prey, they streaked after the raiders. In moments, beams of light struck engines, slicing with surgical accuracy. Raider ships lost control, spinning helplessly. Others, realizing resistance was hopeless, shut down their weapons and surrendered. The Lyrans watched in shock. To them, the Valiant looked like a god of war. It did not move quickly, yet every action was decisive. Its drones moved with terrifying precision. Its cannons, though quiet for now, glowed faintly as if eager to unleash destruction. Captain Neryl, still aboard his damaged frigate, whispered to his crew. They fight like legends, like the old stories. But those stories had always painted the humans as merciless destroyers. What came next confused the Lyrans even more. Instead of finishing the helpless raiders, the Valiant deployed grappling beams. The drones dragged disabled raider ships into controlled zones. Human marines in armored suits boarded them. Within minutes, the remaining pirates were captured, disarmed, and restrained. The Lyrans blinked in disbelief. They are showing mercy? One officer muttered. On the Valiant, Captain Ward addressed her crew. Send a broadcast to all survivors. This sector is secured. Medical assistance is being deployed. Yes, Captain. From the ship's hangars, smaller craft launched. They carried medical teams, engineers, and supplies. Instead of only soldiers, the humans also sent doctors and repair crews. They moved among the battered Lyran ships, patching hulls, stabilizing reactors, and rescuing the wounded. For the first time in hours, the Lyran convoy felt hope. Families who had thought they would die in space now saw humans carrying stretchers, tending to the injured and giving water to the thirsty. Neryl's voice shook with emotion. He sent a transmission. Human Commander, you saved us. We owe you our lives. Captain Ward appeared on his display. Her expression was firm but not unkind. You sent a call for help. Humanity answers. We do not abandon those in need. The words echoed among the Lyran ships. They expected monsters. They saw guardians instead. Still, fear did not vanish so quickly. Among the Lyran fleet, whispers spread. These are the Deathworlders. They say their planet itself tried to kill them. They say even their oceans are storms and their lands are filled with beasts. How can such a people show kindness? Others replied, Perhaps that is why they are strong. They had no choice but to learn compassion. On a death world, even survival is easier when you help one another. Captain Neril himself felt torn. His heart filled with gratitude, yet his mind could not forget the warnings passed down through generations. The Deathworlders were feared for a reason. He had seen the power of their ship. If those weapons had turned on his fleet, the Lyrans would have been erased in seconds. As he watched the Valiant carefully escort raider prisoners and aid the wounded, he realized something important. Humans did not waste power on cruelty. They had control, and control was more frightening than blind rage. Inside the Valiant, the crew worked with practiced calm. For them, this mission was not extraordinary. Humanity had faced worse on their own world. Volcanoes, earthquakes, diseases, predators. Earth had been their eternal enemy, shaping them for endless struggle. Ensign Carter, a young officer, turned to his friend as they monitored repairs. "The aliens look terrified of us," he said quietly. "They should be," the other replied. "But they'll learn. We're not here to conquer. We're here because we remember what it was like to be small, weak, and afraid." Captain Ward overheard. She allowed herself a small smile. That was the truth of humanity. The galaxy called them Deathworlders, but they carried more than strength. They carried empathy forged from hardship. When the Lyran ship stabilized, their leaders requested a meeting. Neril and other captains connected through holographic links with Ward. Their images appeared in shimmering light above the human command deck. One elder Lyran, her voice trembling, asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Why would you help us? We were told your kind brought only war." Ward met her gaze steadily. "War is not what we seek. Survival is what we know. We built strong ships because the universe is not kind, but when we hear a call for help, we will answer. Always." Her words silenced the Lyrans. Slowly, respect replaced fear. Still, far beyond the convoy, other ears had heard the SOS and the response. In the cold halls of rival empires, in the hidden lairs of warlords, whispers spread quickly. The Deathworlders answered. Humanity still sails the stars. They have not weakened. They have not vanished. For centuries, many had hoped the humans would remain in their corner of space, too busy with their own struggles to interfere. Now, with one act of mercy and one show of unstoppable power, humanity's presence was felt once more. And with that presence came unease. If the Deathworlders were active again, the balance of the galaxy could change. Empires built on fear and domination now faced a new question. Could they survive when humanity decided to act? Back with the convoy, the Lyrans prepared to depart. Their ships, patched and steadied, were now escorted by the looming shadow of the Valiant. Though silent, the battleship's presence alone was enough to keep new threats away. Captain Neril stood by the viewing window of his frigate. His crew rested, exhausted but alive. He thought of the beacon they had lit in desperation. He thought of the myths that had frightened his people for centuries. And he thought of the humans who had come not as destroyers but as saviors. His voice was quiet as he spoke to himself. We called for help, and the galaxy's most dangerous guardians answered. The truth of humanity was now clear to him. They were not only feared because of their strength, they were feared because they had the choice to use that strength with mercy. And that, Neril realized, was more powerful than any weapon. The Lyran convoy moved slowly, escorted now by the giant shadow of the UNS Valiant. For the first time since the attack, there was peace in the sector. But peace was fragile. Raiders had been defeated. Yet whispers of their return spread like smoke. Worse, other powers in the galaxy had noticed the signal. Curiosity and fear often traveled faster than light. Inside his damaged frigate, Captain Neril could not rest. He stared at the human ship on his display. Its size dwarfed anything the Lyrans had ever built. It was not only the weapons that terrified him, but the silence, the patience, the control. A predator that did not need to roar was the most dangerous kind. His first officer approached. "Captain, our people are safe. We should be grateful." Neril nodded, but unease lingered in his heart. Gratitude and fear could live side by side. "Yes," he said quietly, "but we must learn who these humans truly are. One day their shadow may fall on more than raiders." On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Elena Ward studied the long-range scans. Her officers reported movement on the edges of the system. More raiders were gathering, reinforced by heavier ships. The first wave had failed, but others were testing their courage. They don't give up easily, her tactical officer muttered. Ward's gaze sharpened. Then we remind them why they should. Her orders came crisp and clear. Bring the main batteries online. Prepare a demonstration. I want every hostile ship to see what happens when they chase prey into Deathworlder space. The crew moved with practiced discipline. Massive cannons rotated. Energy cores pulsed with deep light. But unlike raiders, the humans did not fire wildly. They calculated, measured, and struck with precision. When the raider reinforcements arrived, confident in their numbers, the Valiant released its fury. The first volley shattered space itself. Blazing energy streaked across the void. Hitting with unerring accuracy, raider cruisers exploded instantly, torn apart before they could even lock weapons. Smaller ships tried to scatter, but the Valiant unleashed its drone wings once more, cutting them off like a shepherd controlling a flock. And then came the final blow. The Valiant deployed one of its most feared weapons, a kinetic lance. A solid rod of metal, accelerated to near light speed, crossed the battlefield. It did not glow or roar. It simply struck. One raider capital ship, proud and massive, was split in half as if by an invisible sword. Its wreck drifted silently, broken beyond repair. The Lyrans gasped. Their ships trembled from the shockwave, though none were harmed. They had never witnessed such controlled destruction. The humans could have wiped out the entire system if they wished, but every shot was deliberate, aimed only at threats. Captain Ward's voice echoed through the convoy comms. Enemies of peace will not find shelter here. The system is secured. Stay close to our formation. You are safe. The words comforted the Lyrans, yet they also reminded them of a terrible truth. The humans held the power of annihilation in their hands, and they chose when and how to use it. When the raiders were gone, silence returned. The Lyrans gathered in private council, speaking in hushed tones. One elder whispered, "These are not myths. They are real. They walk among us." Another replied, "We feared them because of their power, but now I fear them because they are merciful. Mercy from such strength is more frightening than cruelty." Neril listened. He thought of the moment the beacon had been lit. If humanity had chosen to ignore it, the Lyrans would be dead. If humanity had chosen to conquer, the Lyrans would already be slaves. Instead, the humans had saved them. He rose and made his decision. "We must speak to their captain directly. The galaxy needs to know what we have seen." Later, aboard the Valiant, Neril stood before Captain Ward in a meeting chamber. Human soldiers flanked the walls, their armor heavy, their presence overwhelming. Yet it was not their weapons that made Neril tremble. It was the calm gaze of Ward, steady and unshaken. "Captain Ward," he began carefully, "your people have saved us. But I must ask, what is the true strength of humanity? Is the Valiant the last of your kind, or are there more?" Ward regarded him in silence for a moment. Then with deliberate calm she gestured to her officers. The room dimmed and a projection filled the space. Neril's breath caught. Before him stretched a fleet. Not one ship, not 10, but hundreds. Carriers, dreadnoughts, cruisers, and swarms of smaller craft. They were hidden, stationed in human-controlled sectors, waiting. Their designs were all different. Scarred, patched, hardened by war. But together they formed a wall of steel that could shake empires. "This," Ward said, "is only a part of our strength. Humanity learned long ago that survival demands readiness. We build not to conquer, but to endure, and when others call for help, we will answer." Neril's voice was barely a whisper. "If the galaxy knew, they would tremble." Ward nodded. "Perhaps they should. But they should also understand this. We do not rise to rule. We rise to protect." The Lyran convoy, escorted by the Valiant, finally reached safe space. Along the way, they sent transmissions ahead, warning other ships and colonies. The Deathworlders answered our call. The words spread like wildfire. In distant empires, leaders frowned and planned. In hidden stations, criminals whispered in fear. And in small colonies, ordinary people dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, someone strong enough to defy the darkness still watched the stars. When the convoy departed, Neril sent a final message to Captain Ward. "We will never forget what you have done. You are feared, yes, but you are also trusted now. If ever we are lost again, we know who will answer." Ward stood on her bridge, watching the Lyran ships fade into the distance. She spoke softly, almost to herself. The galaxy calls us Deathworlders. Perhaps that is true, but sometimes Deathworlders make the best guardians. Her crew heard her words and stood taller, proud of the name others used in fear, for they knew what the galaxy would learn in time. When humanity arrived, enemies fled, empires trembled, and the helpless found hope. And so the legend grew. Never call the Deathworlders unless you are ready for the universe to change.